Ever looked at a boutique pedal and wondered, why are these so expensive? Today, I'm going to be breaking down the real cost to build a Kossoff Drive. I'm going to go through components and labour to enclosures and finishing. And we're going to figure out how much it really costs to build one of these boutique overdrive pedals. Is it really worth the price? Let's find out. After making a video of how much it cost me to build a JHS Angry Charlie, I thought it's only fair if I do one of my pedals next. And I chose my favourite overdrive pedal that I make, the Kossoff Drive. Last video, the comment section went absolutely nuts with people telling me how rubbish my comparison was and how it was untrue and unfair because I didn't take into account my own costs. What we won't be factoring in, and I'm sure I'll get people commenting telling me I'm wrong already, is we will not be factoring in lighting, heating or the cost of my workshop. Mainly because this is my garage that I've converted into my workshop, so I'm not actually paying rent on this as such. And when it comes to bills, I'm not trusted to pay the bills because I spend about 6 months of the year away at sea on a warship.
Flood in the chilled water pump space, location marking 4 Echo. Attack party muster at senior units to support party muster at the closest FRBB.
Well, that's exciting. They completely made the wrong pipe for that flood, and hopefully we won't sink.
So my wife pays all the bills, and I'm going to take that as me basically having them for free. Yeah, I'm going to say I'm having them for free. This is the Kossoff Drive I've just finished working on, so I thought it only fair that I use one that is current and not one that's got loads and loads of fancy parts in, so I could try and boost the price of my own product and make Josh's product look cheaper, which would be absolutely wrong. And even more wrong because I built it out of my own components. Anyway, so like the last time, no expense spared on our list here. I've got a bit of packaging cardboard because I couldn't find any paper. Get on. And first thing on our list is the enclosure. I get these enclosures from China now. I've bought some from the UK, and you get all different types of enclosures. But as these are the current ones I'm working on, and coincidentally, these are the first pedals that I've finished in my new workshop. Love it. Anyway, so the enclosure itself cost me about £10, which, you know, not hugely expensive, but it's a fair old whack because I used a cheap enclosure for the Angry Charlie build. But to be fair, I got that many comments, as I said before, of people saying that I wasn't taking it seriously or that it was a useless thought experiment because I weren't taking this thing into account. So we're going to put it on there. And then next on our list is the knobs. Now the knobs are about 50p each, maybe. I'll say 50p each. They could be a bit more expensive than that, but there's 3 of them. So I'm going to go with £1.50. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky. So the fabric and the Tolex, obviously I either buy in bulk or the Tolex I bought on a whim and probably can't get again. So let's start with the fabric. I get this made up. It's speaker grill cloth. It's my own branded. I mean, it's got the Banksy artwork on, but it's got Hello Sailor effects on as well. I get it made up, and I get it in a big sheet that probably does about, I'm going to say 10 to 12 pedals, but we'll say 10 conservatively because it makes my chief engineer maths really easy. And it cost me about 30 quid for that. But I also pay £20 postage. I'm not going to add the £20 postage on just because, well, I didn't add it on for any of the components for Josh's pedal, and I know people criticise me for that, but there you go. So 10 of them, that gives me, in my terrible maths, chief engineer, £3 for the top cover. Now I know that I can do some in nitro and stuff, but I felt like it'd be really hard to work out how much nitro comes out of a can to be able to finish a pedal, and I just couldn't be bothered working that out. So we're going with this. Now the Vox Tolex, this is actually, I mean, those with a keen eye will have seen already. This is from 1960, I think it was 62, where they did the first fawn covered amplifiers. This is that, so it's not the one that they use now, but this is the older stuff, and I paid an absolute fortune for it. But in fairness sake, I'm just going to put down £3 just to, you know, I don't know, I don't want to quote something massive because I could have used something else, you know what I mean? Or I could have used this top fabric to cover the rest of it. So this bit here is our finishing products that we didn't add to the Josh build, so just keep that in mind. Now, as you can see on my list, I've got Awesome and Fun up here for all the finishing stuff and the components, and then boarding down here for like the tacks and stuff, which I didn't add it onto the last one because, well, I just didn't. I didn't think it was relevant, but enough people have told me that it was. So here I am making another video. Before we get into counting the pennies, I'd like it if you could write in the comments and let me know how much you think it's going to cost me to build this Kossoff Drive. Now, I will take this one apart and show you the internals, but to get inside it, the easiest thing to do is just to show you another board from the same batch. So here we have our Tagboard, which is our main circuit with all the components on, and as you can see, there's a considerably less amount of components on there than there is in the Angry Charlie. So ipso facto, this should be a lot cheaper, and I have a feeling it's going to be a lot cheaper. But like before, I'd love to know what you think in the comments. A lot of people, I think, watched 5 seconds of the video and commented without actually watching. I think people thought that I was having a pop, but I wasn't. Anyway, here's our power board. Just a small board I like to do. I probably could mount all of this onto the Tagboard, but it makes it a bit busy, so I don't. This is my high-tech way of opening it with a bloody screwdriver. Get on, Joe. All wired up. We've got our power board down here. So basically all that is supplying each of the JFETs, and there's a bit of filter in there as well. There's our main circuit board, our pots, which I've just noticed I haven't put on our list, so we will remember to add them in. This is our resistor for our LED, which is back here. Another thing I haven't put in there. Get on. So as you can see, first on our list is our JFETs. Now these, you can pay a lot of money for these, like a lot of money is me, £2 or £3 each if you want to get older ones and stuff. But the place I get them from, they cost about 50p each, and they are they're definitely not Chinese clones, which is why I buy them, but they're not vintage. So that is £1.50. First up, we have a vintage 1 meg resistor. Now, if you can remember back to the JHS video, I said that I was going to charge 50p for vintage resistors. I know some cost more, some cost less, but you know, if we go with 1 meg, with 50p for the 1 meg, it makes it fair to the JHS video. Not that I'm comparing my prices to JHS, by the way, because he's obviously a professional pedal builder and I'm someone who builds 1 or 2, 3 a week maybe. So anyway, next we're on to a vintage 47pf capacitor, and if you remember, we did say that we were going to charge £1 for each vintage capacitor. Now I actually think that these cost a little bit less, but I'm hoping that the other components in here, it'll even itself out, because you know, things like the mustard cap at the end cost a bit more than £1. So I'm just going to put £1 down. Please don't hate me. Right, now we're on to next is a vintage Philips resistor. Now that's actually a 1k, measured 1k, but it's a little out of tolerance. I kind of buy them and get them out of tolerance to measure 1k. Don't know why I do that. I just bought a batch of them, and there's 2 of them in the circuit, so there's one there and one a bit further along, and they are going to cost 50p each, because we said we were going to charge 50p each for our resistors, so that's going to come to £1. I hope that makes sense. Now, for some reason, when I was writing this out, I have absolutely no reason why I did this, but I went straight to the 1.1k Dale resistor that is right back here. Now, they definitely cost more than 50p each, but I'm going to put it down as 50p just because I think it'll all even out in the end. Now, our Weimer capacitor, that's a modern one, I do believe, and I think we said that we were going to charge 10p for them. I may be wrong there. I will check up before I post the video, but we're going to go with 10. That's not 10p. Well done, Joe. That's 1p. Ah, there's my dyslexia going again. There you go, 10p, just about. Now we've got this high precision 180 PF cap. That's an older one. I got it from a radio collection. I'm going to put 50p in for that because it's an older one. On top of our Philips resistor, we've got a Samsung 47 UF capacitor, but that is a modern one, so that's going to be a 10 pence. And then we're on to a tropical fish cap. It says 22 NF on the drawer on the list here, but this is actually 18 NF. I got a load of them. They sound almost identical, if not identical to my ears. But there you go. So this one is going to be 50 pence because it's a vintage capacitor, and I do believe last time we charged 50 pence each for them. I'm going to say, oh no, it wasn't. It was £1 each for them. Look at that. I've actually found my board. So our 22 NF, where is it? Here. There was two of them. We charge £1 each. So vintage capacitors are going to be £1. So scratch that. £1. Look at that, I'm making mistakes already. I'll leave that one as 50p because I've already put it in there, and I don't really want to go back and change it. Next up, buried deep in there, we've got two newer resistors, which is a 10k and 100k. I do believe, if I check my board here, that the newer resistors were going to be something like, what, 1 pence to the charge on that. So I'm going to put that in there for the newer resistors. There's two of them, so they are the same. How's that? Now we get on to our 1UF. Now this is a newer capacitor, but this one I know was about 50 pence, so that's what I'm going to put down. They tend to get more expensive the higher up in value you go. Then we've got two newer resistors which are 15Ks. I know on the JHS one, for the JHS Angry Charlie build, I used a 15K resistor that was a vintage one, but for this, you know, I didn't, so I'm not gonna charge the vintage price just to keep it fair. So there's two of them. And now if I check the one that I did build, you can see that I've just snapped the capacitor leg. Look at that. What are you doing, Joe? Well done. Anyway, as you can see, there are the same components in this one as in here. Now lastly on the list is, for this board, is this mustard cap, and that's a vintage one. It's going to be £1. There we are. That's the Tagboard all over and done with. Now time to move on to our Vero board or perf board. I don't know what this stuff is. I tend to call it perf board. No, I tend to call it do you know what? I don't know what I call it. So this board. Anyway, and first up is our free trim pots, and they are about 10 pence each. So 30 pence for this. Then at the back here, we've got our two filter caps. We've got 100 NF, or I'm going to say it, 0.1 UF. I know everyone hates that, but 100 NF and a 100 UF caps. They are both new caps, so they are going to be, what did I say before? Let's consult our previous results. So I'm sure there was 100 UF here. There was two of them. Oh, there you go. We charged 6 pence each for them, so I'm going to put 6. In fact, we can even go one step further here while we're here. 100 NF was only 2 pence, so 2 pence and 6 pence is 8 pence in total for these. I think it's a good job I've got this board here still. If I'd have chucked that away, I'd absolutely be lying, and I'm sure you would all call me out in the comments. Not that everyone didn't jump on me on the last comments. Get on, there was some wonderful posts there. I thank you all. And then here's a older resistor here, which is a 390 ohm resistor, and that's just for the power supply in. And again, that's a vintage one, so we are going to put, what did we put before? 50 pence. Look at that. Bargain. Now, this is where it gets a bit harder. I have no idea to work out how much this board is, because I buy a big board, there's a lot of waste. I don't really know. Do you know, I'm not one of them guys that like buys boards and chops them up exact or whatever. I kind of just chop them as I'm going, so I have no clue how much this costs. I'm going to put 2 pence down, and I think that's fair. It probably costs more than that, but 2 pence seems quite fair to me. Right, so now on to the Tagboard. So the board itself. How much does one of them cost? So I only use 8 links on it. If I go to my trusty phone, type in buy Tagboard, the first one I come to is modulus amplification, and they are £3.90. That's actually cheaper than what I buy them for, so I'll be buying them from Modulus from now on. But £3.90, and how many tags? I think it's 14. Oh, there you go, 18 tags. I only use 8 of them, so I get two Kossoff drives out of each of these, really. So I'm going to half that price, and I think that's pretty fair. And that makes £1.95. That's fair enough. And then for our jacks, power jack and 3-pole double throw, we can simply refer to our JHS build to make sure that I'm not pulling the wool over anyone. Let's see. Let's not forget the knobs. I'm just going to throw that out there. The knobs on the JHS one were really expensive because they were, well, there was more of them for the start, but they were nice ones. Now, jacks were £1, so we're going to put £1 in for our jacks. Power jack, we have down here as 40 pence. 3-pole double throw is £4. And now also pots. So we said 50p each for our pots. I've got 3 of them. So if I write pots here, and then it's going to be £1.50 because we have 3 of them. As far as my time and labour goes, this is a bit of a weird one for me to figure out. Now, I don't think I'm a master builder like the Fender custom shop sort of level. I sort of reserve that for guys like Thorpe. Where does my cost come in? And this is all subjective. I see myself as being at the same level that I'm at in the military. So I'm a chief engineer, which is, you know, I've got 1 rank left to go before the commissioned officers. So I'm basically 1 rank off the top that I can get to. Now, the next rank above me would be, for you American guys, would be a Master Chief. So I'm right up there. But also, I'm not the master builder. I'm not an officer. I'm not an admiral or whatever. So I'm right in the middle. And I think that's kind of where I'm at for my pedal building. Now, I'm going to use that as a guide to work out my hourly cost. The Navy pay me approximately £54,000 a year. So I'm going to say £54,000 a year, minus 7 weeks holiday, 8 hours a day. And ChatGPT handily tells me that I earn roughly £30 an hour. That seems to make sense. When it comes to making this pedal, I think it takes me about an hour to do the finishing and drilling. When it comes to the Tagboard, it takes me about an hour and a half to get all the components together, measure them, make sure they're right, and then populate the boards. And then it takes me approximately half an hour to wire the pedal up and test it. By my calculations, that gives me 3 hours work. So 3 hours work per pedal. ChatGPT tells me I earn £30 per hour, which comes to £90 per pedal for labour. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of people going to argue with that in the comments. Now, I know Josh has approximately 40 people working for him, so he can get his labour costs down much more. But I build each pedal one at a time myself with these hands. Which kind of reminds me of a funny story. I watched an early Thorpe video where he's talking to the interviewer, and the interviewer asks, how do we know that your hands are getting in each pedal and you're actually building them? And Thorpe looks at him straight in the eye and says, you don't want one built by me. You want one built by my wife, because she's much better at it than I am. And I just thought that was brilliant. Now, I've tried to get my wife Hayley involved in the soldering side of things, and she is just not interested. She thinks I'm like a turbo geek. However, when it comes to tax and bills and taking payment, packing and shipping, she does all of that because I am useless. As ever, I absolutely missed something. Here we have the tone cap and the gain pot resistor. 2.2k resistor for the gain pot at 18 NF. Capacitor for the tone cap, always miss them off. Vintage cap, £1. Vintage resistor, 50 pence. So there we have these two components added in. I literally got to test the pedal then, set the bias, so then we could have a sound sample. It sounded terrible, the bias weren't set, and I was like, what is going on? Of course, well done Joe, you've missed some components. I'm going to go away and get them soldered in, and then we can crack on. Another area I forgot to mention that I did get criticism in the comments of my last video for was things like wire. I didn't take into account the wire. So I like to use this stuff. Get it out of this holder here. It's from BN Tech Go. Now this is about 10 to 15 pounds a roll, and I use about, I don't know, I get a fair few pedals out of a roll, so it's almost negligible. But just for the argument's sake, before someone tells me off in the comments, I'm going to write down 10 pence. So let's put wire here. Wire, 10 pence. And I hope that satisfies everyone. Now looking at our board to see if we missed anything else off our last thing, we've got the LED bezel, which is another 10 pence. So let's write that in there while we can. I don't know why I'm using like the very edge of the paper when I'm squeezing it on, right? Why don't they just use a big open space here or something? I don't know. So LED bezel and the LED resistor. Well, the LED resistor on this one's a new one, so it's literally no money at all. So I'm going to put LED resistor over here. And that is going to be a penny. It's barely worth adding it in, is it? But there you go. LED resistor. And if I'm looking at this, there isn't anything else that I've missed off. If you think I have missed something off, please let me know in the comments.
Of course the video is corrupted for tax and reverb fees. Damn technology. Tax is 20% in the UK. Reverb fees are 5% too.
Before I reveal how much it costs to build a Kossoff Drive, let's hear how one sounds. Before I reveal how much it cost me to build this Kossoff Drive, I'd just like to say that this is in no way a comparison to how much it cost Josh to build a pedal per unit. Josh is running an actual pedal business with real employees, and I'm a guy sat in my garage talking to a camera. Now, without further ado, it cost me a total of $174.19 per pedal, and that's in pounds. So what's that in dollars? It is, of course, $220 or thereabouts. Now, I think that's a pretty fair price. I'd love to know what you think of my prices. If you like that video, you're going to really love this video next.